Her husband, Daniel, had collapsed at work earlier that evening. One moment he was laughing with a coworker, the next he was on the ground clutching his chest. By the time the ambulance arrived, Daniel was barely conscious. Sarah had followed the sirens to the hospital, praying under her breath the entire drive. Daniel was only 38. He was supposed to grow old with her. He was supposed to teach their son to drive, walk their daughter down the aisle someday. None of this was supposed to happen. Hours passed. The ticking clock on the wall felt louder than the machines behind the doors. When a doctor finally stepped out, Sarah jumped to her feet. He was tall, with tired eyes and a calm voice that carried both authority and compassion. His name badge read, Dr. Michael Carter. Dr. Carter explained that Daniel had suffered a massive cardiac event caused by a rare, undiagnosed condition. Surgery was the only option, and it had to be done immediately. But then came the words that crushed Sarah's chest even more than fear already had. The surgery was expensive. Their insurance coverage was limited. Even with partial approval, the remaining cost was overwhelming. More money than Sarah had ever seen in her life. Sarah nodded numbly as Dr. Carter spoke, but her mind was screaming. How do you put a price on someone's life? How do you choose between debt that could ruin your family and losing the person you love most? Dr. Carter paused, watching her carefully. He had seen this look too many times before. The look of someone standing at the edge of despair. He told her they would do everything medically possible, and left her with a social worker to discuss options. Sarah sank back into the chair, tears finally spilling down her face. Dr. Michael Carter had been a doctor for over 15 years. He had saved countless lives, but each one carried its own weight. That night, as he scrubbed his hands in preparation for Daniel's surgery, he couldn't shake Sarah's face from his mind. Her fear reminded him of his own past. Of nights when his own family had struggled, when his mother had worked 2 jobs to keep food on the table after his father passed away unexpectedly. Medicine for Dr. Carter was never just a profession. It was a promise he had made to himself long ago, to help people when they were at their most vulnerable. The surgery was long and complicated. For hours, Dr. Carter and his team worked with intense focus, fighting against time itself. When it was finally over, Daniel was alive. But his recovery would be long, uncertain, and costly. Sarah was allowed to see Daniel briefly in the ICU. She held his hand, whispering that she was there, that he wasn't alone. But even in that moment of relief, the fear of what came next loomed over her. Bills would come. Decisions would have to be made. And she had no idea how she would manage. Days passed. Daniel slowly regained consciousness. He was weak but alive, and that alone felt like a miracle. Their children, 8-year-old Jacob and 5-year-old Lily, visited with wide eyes and careful hugs, afraid to break their father. Sarah tried to be strong for them, but every time she stepped into the hallway alone, the weight of reality pressed down on her. One afternoon, Sarah was called into an office. She expected another conversation about finances, another reminder of what she couldn't afford. Instead, Dr. Carter was waiting for her. He spoke gently, explaining Daniel's progress and what the next steps would be. Then he took a deep breath and said something Sarah never expected to hear. Dr. Carter told her that he had personally spoken with the hospital board. He had worked out a way to reduce a significant portion of the medical costs. What he didn't mention right away was that he had also done something far more personal. Dr. Carter had used his own savings to help cover part of Daniel's surgery and aftercare. Sarah stared at him, certain she had misunderstood. Doctors didn't do that. People didn't do that. Tears filled her eyes as the truth sank in. She tried to protest, to tell him it was too much, that she couldn't accept it. Dr. Carter stopped her gently. "I became a doctor to save lives," he said. "But sometimes saving a life means saving the family too." Sarah broke down right there in the office, overwhelmed by gratitude and disbelief. For the first time since that terrible night, she felt something she hadn't felt in weeks: hope. Dr. Carter never asked for recognition. He didn't want thanks or praise. To him, it was simply the right thing to do. But his act of selflessness rippled far beyond that hospital room. Daniel's recovery was slow but steady. Physical therapy was hard. There were setbacks and moments of frustration. Some days Daniel felt like giving up, ashamed that his illness had put his family through so much. But Sarah was there every step of the way. reminding him that they were still together, and that together was everything. Months later, Daniel returned home. Life wasn't perfect. Money was still tight, but the crushing weight of impossible debt was gone. The kids laughed again. Dinner at the table felt like a blessing instead of a routine. One evening, as the family sat on their small porch watching the sun dip below the horizon, Daniel held Sarah's hand and said something that stayed with her forever. "We're still here," he said, "because someone chose kindness." Years passed. Daniel regained his strength and eventually returned to work, this time with a deeper appreciation for every ordinary day. Sarah went back to school part-time, inspired by the compassion she had witnessed. She wanted to help people too in her own way. They never forgot Dr. Carter. On the 5th anniversary of Daniel's surgery, the Millers visited the hospital. They brought a handwritten letter and a framed photo of their family, smiling healthy together. When Dr. Carter opened the envelope later that day, he read words that quietly brought tears to his eyes. "Your selfless act didn't just save a life," the letter read. "It restored a family's hope. We carry your kindness with us every day." Dr. Carter placed the photo on his desk among many others. Each one represented a life touched, a story changed. In a world that often felt rushed and indifferent, these moments reminded him why compassion still mattered.